Megan.
Hi,
Hi,
Rita.
people of St. Joan of Arc. This is Rita Nohner, and my co-chair, Megan. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Meghan Grossman, co-chair with my great friend Rita of the Sister Parish Committee, and we're here today to share a little bit about our passion and love for Sister Parish and how that relationship has fostered solidarity over the years. So we have been in a Sister Parish relationship with Tierra Nueva in Guatemala for over 25 years. Rita and I have been co-chairs for about the last 6 years, and through our journey together in this committee, we have gotten to know the folks in TN2 we call it TN2, Tierra Nueva, so TN2. We've gotten to know the folks there so well, like family, basically. It's a relationship of solidarity in which every other year, a group of folks from St. Joan of Arc travels down to Guatemala to spend time, live with, in the homes of, live with, worship with, and become family with, really, the sisters and brothers that live in Guatemala. Every other year, a group of Guatemalans come from TN2 and visit us, live in our homes, and become parts of our family. You may have experienced TN2 through delegates who visited St. Joan of Arc over the years. Maybe you've come to one of our events, or maybe you've seen the beautiful crafts that our committee makes and sends up to sell to help fund their travel. Between projects that we work on together, the women's group, the scholarship program, and the travel, we really have built a relationship of solidarity and love over the years.
Yeah, and like you said, those delegation trips are so important. I mean, that's really how we connect, how we get to know each other as fellow human beings, how we learn from each other. We learn how to do so many different things, and certainly what they have taught us has been such a great. They've provided such a great example of leadership, of community leadership, of parish leadership, what that looks like, and certainly it's something. One of the other things that we really stress as part of this solidarity is not just a yearly delegation trip, but constant communication with our brothers and sisters in Guatemala. So we've set up a schedule of kind of, give or take, every other month Skype calls. We have a WhatsApp connection. We are texting. Many of us are friends on Facebook. So we have a constant line of communication going back and forth. So that has allowed us, as we all around the world have experienced this COVID pandemic, to kind of have a sense of what it's like for them down in Guatemala, and for them to have a sense of what it's like for us here in the United States, and more specifically in Minnesota and Minneapolis. One of the things that they have shared with us is that the experience of this pandemic is simply just highlighting once again the existing inequalities that they face on a daily basis. Our community in Tierra Nueva is not a wealthy urban community. It is a community on the margins. And therefore, they struggle every day for just basic necessities. They don't have running water, except for a few hours a day. Access to fresh food is difficult. Access to medical help is difficult. Even when they do have access to it, they can't afford it frequently. So the COVID crisis is simply highlighting those existing inequalities. And just as we're seeing those same things happening here in the United States and in Minneapolis and St. Paul, that when you have a pandemic on top of existing systems of injustice and inequality, that pandemic just exacerbates things. But one of the things that we've been so amazed by is their immediate response to dealing with it in the community. And Megan, maybe you can talk a little bit about how they've responded with assisting their neighbors.
Yeah, we're so proud and learned so much from the way that our sisters and brothers in Tierra Nueva have responded to the crisis. Rita and I both received a text via WhatsApp. That's one of our most common forms of communication with our family there. Hearing that the COVID crisis had caused because of the quarantine, because folks are sheltering at home and living in and working in an economy, an informal economy in which you have no safety net, no opportunities to work from home. Markets are closed for people who are selling in the market. Folks who don't work don't eat. And those families were in crisis. And the project I was referring to earlier regarding the women's group project, the scholarship project, some funds were available. And we got a really urgent request to use some short-term, use some funding from those projects to buy food. And when your family's in need, you respond. And of course, nobody in our committee had even a hesitation to say absolutely. But what was so beautiful about this request was not that it had anything to do with us or our generosity. It was about the folks in TN2 organizing themselves into making lists of who are the women who are raising children alone, who are single moms, who are the elderly, who are especially vulnerable, who are the families who are really living on the margin, who really haven't had a paycheck for a long time. They made those lists because they know their neighbors, they know each other, and they are a community that is truly united, and they are able to then distribute funds in a way that I think we could learn from here in the United States, and getting to know our neighbors and understanding and immediately responding to needs. They bought food, they arranged them into baskets, they gave some to the church for distribution, they got them to the people in a safe way, in a quick way, and they even bought thermometers for the clinic so people could have, it just amazes me how quickly and efficiently they're able to organize themselves to help their neighbors.
Right. And one of the other things that's impressive is that they are such careful stewards of their resources, and the resources that they have on hand and the resources that we share from our parish, because we are a community that's not on the margins, and therefore we're able to provide some financial assistance to help fund these programs, and that's what they dipped into. But they are shepherding all of their resources, their human resources, their, finding people who have vehicles who can transport them to places. But the accounting, when they come back to us and they say, here's the list of people, here's how we spent your money, and it's not our money, here's how we spent our money. It's impressive how they steward the resources that they have available and how they take care to make sure that the people who are getting things are people who truly need them, and that they're keeping track of things so that they're not missing anyone, and things are being distributed equitably. It's and the way they responded to this COVID crisis, when they had 130 people in a sweatshop who were abruptly laid off, sent home, and in quarantine, that's a lot of people, 130 different families that needed help. And they sprang into action and they took care of it. It's not unlike what we're seeing here in the Twin Cities, as communities who have seen just real destruction as a result of this last week's violence, the looting and the rioting that happened while people were trying to peacefully protest, really destroyed communities.
And when we all were watching National Guardsmen in our streets and our city burn, and mourning the loss of an innocent man for the color of his skin, those were all of these events that have impacted us all as a community. When seen through the lens of the solidarity that we've built with Sister Parish, when looking at it through their lens and learning from them and how they handle the trauma, that's when I can start seeing the good, the neighbors in my own neighborhood coming together and getting to know each other and doing neighborhood watch, and then turning into a food shelf and cleaning up Lake Street. All of that I see through the lens of our Guatemalan brothers and sisters.
Right. And the other part of that is that because we have been able to sit with them, with our brothers and sisters in Guatemala, listen to their stories, hear the history of oppression that they've dealt with since the times of the colonization, the way that indigenous and people who are not of European ancestry, the way that they've been subjugated, and the impunity that those in power want over them. We have heard their stories. We understand the historical trauma that something like COVID just dredges back up. You know, they've got people in the streets telling them they have to go back into their homes, and some of the same experiences that they're having around this COVID crisis are bringing back memories of the time of the 30-year Civil War, when people were being disappeared, and trying to speak up for your rights was something that was punishable by death. And certainly it's something that helps me to have a perspective when we see what's happened in our city in this last week and a half, when things just seem to boil over. And so I feel like having that perspective from our brothers and sisters in Guatemala has helped me to have at least some sort of perspective on what's happening here in our own country, and certainly has increased my desire to learn more, to be a more active listener, to be more involved in building solidarity here at home as well as in Guatemala.
And so in conclusion, we want to invite you, our brothers and sisters at St. Joan of Arc. The beauty of this relationship with TN2 is that it's parish to parish. Everyone can be embraced in this relationship. So please join us. As you can see, we're just one big family with lots of photo albums, and just like with any family, the more love, the better. So join us for a movie night to learn more about Guatemalan history. Join us for a Skype call or a Zoom call with our brothers and sisters in TN2. Practice your Spanish, get to know some of our friends down there, and get to know us. You're welcome at our committee meetings every first Wednesday of the month.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.